Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome everybody to this week's edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. Once again, this is a return episode of sorts, as last week we did Triple Threat Theater to resounding success. I had a lot of good topics that I came up with, but I thought that the responses and rebuttals and opinions and general banter that Donnie and Josh Cross gave last week I thought was spectacular. Really enjoyed talking with those guys on the pod, as I always do. We'll definitely have Triple Threat Theater going forward, depending on what topics we would like to cover. Yeah, I had a really good time talking with them, and now we're going to do a solo episode, of course. Next week, potentially a Money in the Bank prediction show with Josh Eisenberg, but that is not set in stone. Keep up to date with the Twitter and the pod to see if he actually shows up or not. I assume if he's available, he will. So that'll be fantastic to get those in. This is going to be a chaotic show, to say the least. A ton of stuff has happened since the last time this was on the air, and last time since anything was reported on, because last week was Triple Threat Theater, as I stated, and I was out of town. But now I've got Collision to talk about. We've got SmackDown that had an interesting ending leading up to Money in the Bank. Raw, Dynamite, we got Forbidden Door this weekend. I'm going to go over that show, and I'm going to give some predictions by myself here. We'll run down as much as we can, as quickly as we can. As always, I always think this is a long show, or a short show, and it turns into a long show. So buckle up for another hour of Juice Springsteen material. As always, Juicy Steen on Twitter, at Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram, juicysteen.podbean.com. Go find this show on Google Podcasts, on Apple Podcasts, and if you do find it on Apple Podcasts, please rate and review this thing. 5 stars would be fantastic. I don't know what else to say. Got a lot of good feedback and some numbers from the Triple Threat Theater. Those seem to be popular shows, so we'll continue to do those as well. But let's just dive right into it. I don't really know where to start, so I think we're going to start with the WWE of it all. And then we'll kind of go into the AEW, Collision, Dynamite, Forbidden Door stuff. I'll try to cover as much as I can. I'll probably forget some stuff as well. A little bit of NXT in there as well. So we'll see. But so last week was the big turning point for the Bloodline. We finally have a split, a definitive split, barring any unforeseen incident with one of the teams turning on each other, which I don't think is going to happen. But Jey Uso finally turned on Roman Reigns. Man, the super kick heard around the world once again, and then that double super kick to Roman, as Jey says to Jimmy, "You're out," as part of the Bloodline. And he says, "Guess what? I'm out too." And I mean, the crowd, when it was electric. Now we'll just get to this. Bully Ray recently said, I believe on Busted Open, which features one Justin LaBar every week, and I will be discussing something related to him here in a little bit regarding Pittsburgh and a PLE finally coming to Pittsburgh once again. First time in 5 years. But we'll get there. But on Busted Open, Bully Ray said that he believes that the Usos are the greatest tag team in WWE history. I can't say that I agree with him. I won't necessarily disagree with why he's saying that. I don't know how many tag teams could be involved in such a big storyline for 3 years straight, 3 years running, be integral, be very important, be utilized, be split up, be brought back together, have people come in and out. All these types of things have been happening in regards to the Usos, and who once, I mean, not once, but many times over, were on the pre-show of shows like Money in the Bank 10 years ago, are now in one of the featured matches. Now, they did main event WrestleMania Saturday, of course, but they are now in another big spot. The Bloodline Civil War. It's been marketed now by WWE. It's going to be Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns versus the Usos. That is going to be off the charts. Very exciting stuff there again. I would even say, and I have said it before on Twitter, and I will stand by it, that this is probably the greatest storyline in the history of WWE. Purely because of how long it's been, how consistent it's been, even with the people leaving, people getting added and subtracted, Sami Zayn, and all the ins and outs of this whole thing. Somehow still keep everybody wanting more, and the dissolving of the bloodline now is really, really nuanced, and it's been fantastic to see on screen, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it ends. Purely because it's not that I don't have faith that that WWE can come up with something further than this, but once the bloodline's not the focal point, I mean, is Roman going to be there all the time? What are the Usos going to do? Is Solo going to have a solo run, pun intended? I personally, no matter what happens, regardless, I would love to see Solo Sikoa as, quote, the next big thing underneath Paul Heyman, and to see where that would go. But of course, that would mean that he might have to turn on Roman, and that might be the next way they do things after Money in the Bank. I don't know what is going to happen for SummerSlam. Only WWE knows what's going to happen, and I'm looking forward to it. So that was Friday. That was a lot of stuff. Friday was pretty damn crazy. But then we go into Raw. Some interesting stuff there. Tommaso Ciampa is now back after a bit of time, I believe, on the shelf for an injury. And then they were in Cleveland, and The Miz was calling people out, and Johnny Gargano did not come out. And it was a shame because, I mean, even in Gargano's Twitter likes, a lot of stuff about, thought you were going to be out here, and just Clevelanders thinking that maybe Johnny was going to be a part of the open challenge or just come out in general. He's making a return. I do see a potential DIY reunion, coming soon. If you're asking me what I want to book for the tag team titles at SummerSlam, give me DIY versus KO and Sami Zayn. I mean, can you get a bigger match than that with tag teams? I mean, to get DIY versus who I remember as Steen Erico back in Ring of Honor would be unbelievable to see, and I think it would be a fantastic, fantastic match, especially with the crowds. Probably unglued in Detroit for that. That comes up at the beginning of August. But at the beginning of July, we get Money in the Bank. And at the very, very beginning. And we have a new entrant in the Money in the Bank ladder match by way of one Logan Paul. And kind of just said, I'm in. So they let him in. It's Logan Paul, Damian Priest, Butch, Santos Escobar, L.A. Knight, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Ricochet. A 7-man match. I still think LA Knight is the favorite. But there's a couple ways they could go about it. We're still not going to do the predictions yet, of course, but I see LA Knight winning this thing and, somehow cashing it in on a Seth Rollins being beat down. Something to that effect. I see Logan Paul winning this thing and holding onto that briefcase into a huge moment. And if Logan Paul cashes in the Money in the Bank briefcase and wins the world title, the storyline, doesn't even matter. To me, the fact that Money in the Bank is an out for WWE. You don't have to have Logan Paul be in some big storyline and work up to a big match. Now, he had his match with Roman Reigns for the title, and that was great. And it was a Saudi show. It was a perfect storm type of thing to get him in there. He was in the Rumble. He's going to be in the Money in the Bank. And I like that, this is a way. Logan Paul doesn't have to beat anybody, 1, 2, 3 or by submission to get this thing done. He can win the Money in the Bank briefcase. He's an athletic guy. He can climb that ladder, win it, and cash in on someone unsuspecting and be the WWE champion. Headlines across the world. Social media would be a buzz, to say the least. If Logan Paul became WWE champion, world champion, whichever one you want to say, and I think that could be a really strong move for WWE. So I don't know what they want to do. I think it's interesting that they put LA Knight in this match, thinking everybody's going to think he's going to win, and then you insert Logan Paul, and it's like, well, is there something for Logan Paul at SummerSlam with one of these guys in the match? I've also posited maybe Logan Paul, LA Knight is so close to the briefcase, doesn't win. Logan Paul kind of steals it from him, and then LA Knight challenges Logan at SummerSlam for it, and LA Knight wins to get him even more over. I don't know what you really could do, but I think there's some options there for sure. But yeah, Money in the Bank is definitely looking to be the favorite. LA Knight, rather. Looking to be the favorite, I still think, to win Money in the Bank. We also have another entrant in the women's Money in the Bank by way of one Trish Stratus. It will be Trish, Io Sky, Bayley, Zoe Stark, Becky Lynch, and Zelina Vega in the Money in the Bank ladder match for the women's title contract. First of all, I love Zoe Stark as the heater, as the diesel for Trish. She's believable. She's intimidating as hell, and she's really good in ring. And I could see her winning this match and taking the next step. And I don't know. Trish being in it is interesting to me. I love that we're getting a Money in the Bank ladder match with Trish Stratus, Becky Lynch, and Bayley. Just 3 really top women's stars over the course of the last 25 years. And then Zelina, Zoe, and Io are kind of the newcomers. So you get kind of half and half there. And I think it's going to be a fun ladder match on both sides. Still don't know who's going to win on the women's side, but I don't know who's going to win on the men's side. So I think it should be interesting, to say the least. On Raw, though, nothing else really crazy happened that I thought was more interesting than not. So I'll kind of transition now into NXT, where, God, the ratings for NXT were the biggest that they've done in about 2 to 3 years, and that was because Seth freaking Ratings Rollins, came in, defended the WWE World Heavyweight title against Braun Breaker, and they had a killer match on NXT this past week at the NXT Gold Rush. First half of that, they a barn burner, to say the least, a brawn burner, dive through the announce table. Strong showing by Braun, and I really do have a good feeling about him going to the main roster, because they haven't pulled the trigger yet, and he's really actually honed in on his character work and being a heel, badass heel, instead of being this like good guy, I'm happy to be here version of Brock Lesnar. It's kind of like, I mean business. I want to, dominate people and really just mow them down. So I like Braun Breaker as a not dastardly heel, but just a brooding heel, Brock Lesnar type character. Great match. I love Rollins going to NXT. We saw Baron Corbin doing some mic work with Carmelo Hayes, and I thought Baron Corbin did some good work on the mic and on NXT. Say what you want about his in-ring. I mean, not his in-ring, but like the direction that they've given his in-ring stuff. Happy Corbin, and I mean, downtrodden Corbin was really fun. I liked Happy Corbin when it switched, but Either give me the long hair, deep six Corbin, or get me this new, like, I've been at the top and I've been at the bottom, but I'm still a veteran in this business and I can really do some damage. And he goes to NXT and he's kind of, prove it, kid. And I like that. That's utilizing your talent to its fullest. Take him to NXT. It's not a demotion. You're helping out your other talent. You're helping out talent that's already the champion get even better. That is something that's an intangible that needs to be done more. Is even if you're the champion, that doesn't mean you're fully ready to go anywhere. You should still be trying to hone in on your craft at the best of your ability. So I like Baron Corbin doing that in NXT. Say what you want about him. And then, yeah, let's... So Money in the Bank's pretty much set up so far with the Bloodline Civil War, Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins, Cody versus Dom. The Money in the Bank matches for the women and men. We'll probably get Gunther and Riddle, I would assume, for the IC title, which should be a really good match. And then I would assume that's probably it. Maybe another match is inserted there, but I would say 6 matches could be a sweet spot for this show. But let's get into the even more exciting part of WWE this week. It was announced, first time in 5 years, that a PLE is going to come to the 4-1-2. WWE Payback, Labor Day weekend, Saturday night, September 2nd. Tickets, now if you listen to this here on Friday, the pre-sale has begun. But tickets go on sale to the general public next Tuesday, the 27th, I believe. But yeah, this is exciting. Like I said, Extreme Rules 2018 was the last pay-per-view here, and that's when they were pay-per-view. Wasn't a PLE. And that is famous for the Dolph Ziggler, Seth Rollins Iron Man match, 30-minute Iron Man match. Thought it was fantastic. Yet every time minute by minute, the last 10 seconds of each minute, the crowd was chanting back 10, 9, 8 as if it were the Royal Rumble. So much so early on in the match that they had to take out the Titantron clock, only to reinsert it about 5 minutes later to the enjoyment of the crowd. So I'm looking forward to the show. And before that, though, Extreme Rules, the only other one was Roadblock End of the Line, which was in December of 2016. And that was a bizarre event. And then, before that was Royal Rumble 2014, where famously Rey Mysterio got booed because he was not Daniel Bryan entering number 30 into the Royal Rumble. So quite a long 9 years journey overall for WWE, having Rumble, having a tough Rumble go, and then 2 years of a show, another 2 years we got another show, and now 5 years and we get this show. I'm looking forward to it. I love Saturday night shows. Labor Day will be great because we got the next 9/3 is All Out for AEW. So back-to-back PLEs will be fun. I, of course, will be in attendance for this show. Cannot wait for that. Should be fun. I don't know what I can do specifically to make this show interesting during that week, but it will be a Pittsburgh show. Maybe I can talk to some Pittsburgh fans as we lead up to that show. But that's coming up in a couple of months, so we'll tackle that when we get there. Yeah, looking forward to that. Big announcement finally that we get another show here. But let's finally get into the AEW of it all. Wow. A lot of stuff happened. Let's start with Collision, because Collision was the first thing since the last show. Obviously, this was the CM Punk show. This was in Chicago. The crowd was at a fever pitch. It was the United Center. It's very clear that CM Punk is still a draw, even if it's just in Chicago so far, which we'll get into on Dynamite, because on Dynamite he was cheered even more for running in. We'll get to that. But something similar to his "Your arms are too short to box with God" promo, CM Punk took the mic flag off of the microphone a great touch if you are a long time fan and pay attention to stuff like that, like I do and many others do. I thought that was a fantastic little nuance for CM Punk. So if you remember that, Pepperidge Farm remembers that. So that was good. CM Punk had a red bag. Now, what's in the bag? It's very conceivable that it was just another AEW world title because he, quote, never lost it. Although some people suggested it could be the dog collar from the MJF dog collar match. And then I thought potentially, is it a little bit of a nuanced design of a new AEW title where he's the real champion and wants to go back and forth with whoever's the current champion. Although MJF is the champion now, by the time that he would want to, CM Punk rather, would want to go for the title. Maybe that would be a new design. He never opened the bag, so we really don't know what's in there, but I like the intrigue of that. He said, I got a couple of quotes here, because the big quote was later on, but he said, I'm the truth is painful, and then, I am the genuine article in the business of counterfeit bucks, which obviously was an approved line by Tony Khan. I think it's a little overblown now. There was an ESPN article that was going to come out before Collision, and it was really tame overall. The rumor was that it was the Hangman Page clothesline, or chop rather, that was more of a clothesline to the chin in their first interaction. That kind of set CM Punk off. However, I doubt that. I think it was just more of CM Punk getting pissed that this first interaction between him and this guy that I don't believe he's worked with before was so stiff and, like, to him probably thinking unprofessional, because as soon as he gets in the ring with Samoa Joe, 3 straight massive chops to the chest in the corner. So I don't think it was the chop necessarily as just the professionalism that CM Punk had a problem with. So that could probably be, it's probably more overblown than not, but I don't know what we're doing with the CM Punk and the Elite stuff. I don't know if we're actually going to get any interaction between them going forward, but I don't know. They seem to be teasing certain things as we go along. We'll discuss some certain things. I didn't come here to be a star. I am a star. A little shot at the old WWE slogan there. But it was a great little promo. I thought he really, he did what he needed to do and got his point across. Wardlow and Luchasaurus. Wardlow loses the TNT title now for the 3rd time since Orange Cassidy has been international champion, so wow. But decent match. Christian holding up the TNT title as if he won the title. Love that, because he was on the first Rampage, which I attended in Pittsburgh. He won the Impact World title off of Kenny Omega. Buddy Matthews and Andrade, the battle of the men in the relationship. Although Mommy and Charlotte could beat up a lot of the guys. But Charlotte Flair's hubby and Rhea Ripley, her better half, Buddy Matthews, going at it in a rematch of WrestleMania. So WrestleMania 39 happened with Rhea and Charlotte, arguably the best match of the weekend. And now we got Buddy and Andrade, who tore the house down. I thought it was a fantastic match. These two guys work well together. And the ratings show it. A lot of hype for this match, the CM Punk match and segment, and then the Miro match were the highest rated stuff on Collision. And Buddy Matthews losing to Andrade, who used the figure 8. And that was after Buddy used Rhea's submission finisher on Andrade. I love that stuff. I love the nuances. It's a little homage to their better halves. And, so many people will, and a lot of the fans, they all are making fun of Buddy Matthews for Dom being, more invested in Rhea. And Mommy has Dom, and who does Buddy have? But Buddy Matthews pals around with Julia Hart, so I see, if anything, I see a fair trade. If you're gonna come at him for something, and he's still palling around with someone who's pretty well rounded overall, in ring, and as a character, I think the trio of the House of Black with Julia Hart is fantastic. So it's comparable to the Judgment Day. I don't see why there has to be a direct comparison. I think they're both great in their own way. I also a little thing here that the production team did. Now I don't know if they'll do it for Dynamite. I hope they continue to do it for Collision. That'd be pretty cool. But there was an overhead camera shot that they kept doing, which I really enjoyed, and it reminded me of WrestleMania 10, specifically the Owen and Bret Hart match to open up the show. The ladder match, of course, had the great shots from the overhead camera. I thought it was a solid production choice. I do believe Mike Mansouri is the guy that's now kind of in there running stuff like that to make the show look different and look better. So props to him if he had an idea to make that camera choice. Said this before and I'll say it again. The Acclaimed are the 2023 equivalent of DX, and I love it. Miro had a squash against Tony Nese. Poor Tony Nese. But Miro is definitely going to be a babyface going forward, whether they want him to be or not. The fans love him. The fans think that he's incredibly over because he is. It's been a long time, and I'm looking forward to seeing Miro get a little better opportunities outside of just squashing Tony Nese. Underrated highlight, Sky Blue and Willow Nightingale versus Toni Storm and Ruby Soho. Sky Blue in our hometown gets the win with the code red, although I'd refer it to the code blue. And I think Sky Blue is one of the more, not unappreciated, but just underrated workers in AEW in the women's side. For the last year and a half, she has been honing her craft on Dark, a couple of Dynamite shots here or there. But I think she's done a lot of great work, and now she's probably going to be primed as we get closer and closer to completing the Owen Hart Tournament Cup. The brackets have been unveiled, which I will go over them here, the men and the women. I only mention that because we have the brackets now here, so I can discuss when they're taking place and who's going to be in them. We'll do the women first. The 8 women that are in the Owen Hart Foundation Cup tournament are Britt Baker versus Ruby Soho, which is going to take place on the next Dynamite next week. Anna Jay and Sky Blue will take each other on tonight on Rampage. Nyla Rose and Willow Nightingale on Collision Saturday. And then at Forbidden Door, Athena versus Billy Starks. So those are your 4 quarterfinal matches. And then on the men's side, we've got Dustin Rhodes versus Powerhouse Hobbs taking place on Collision next Saturday. Juice Robinson, no relation, versus Ricky Starks, also next week. Hamilton, Ontario, and Collision. Other half of the bracket, Roderick Strong versus Samoa Joe. Collision once again. So those 3 matches will take place next week. Hamilton, Ontario, and Collision. And then Satoshi Kojima takes on CM Punk at Forbidden Door this Sunday. So that'll be an interesting part of the bracket. It's pretty obvious that we will get CM Punk and Samoa Joe in the semifinals. I do not know when that match will take place, but that is a match that people have been wanting to see for, 20 years now, since it originally happened in Ring of Honor. So we'll have to see what happens there. But the tournaments are set. Just looking at the brackets, I would wager that the final could be Sky Blue, potentially versus Willow Nightingale. Maybe. I'd like to see Sky Blue versus Britt in the semis. I think there's a lot of different ways to go there. And then the other side of it, the men, I see CM Punk and Samoa Joe, and then I see Ricky Starks versus Powerhouse Hobbs, and then I see Ricky Starks winning it overall. Don't know who he'd face to win. If he could defeat CM Punk, wouldn't that be a hell of a thing? But, yeah, so Forbidden Door coming up. We got one of those matches for the Owen Hart Cup. Collision, though, finished off with the CM FTR versus Jay White, Juice Robinson, no relation. Fantastic match. Great episode of Collision. Ended with CM Punk getting the win after the Shatter Machine. The CM Punk hits the GTS. And CM FTR, great trio. And First of all, Jim Ross was on commentary here, and he mentioned that he had taken a bad fall earlier in the day, but he didn't sound great. He sounded very hoarse. So he said he will take time away to heal up that. Hopefully he gets better. JR, he's been at it for, God, 40 years maybe now? Almost 40 years he's been doing this. So speedy recovery for Jim. But speaking of commentary, Kevin Kelly, Nigel McGuinness as the Collision commentators. I love the idea as soon as it happened, as soon as they announced it. And then, as soon as I heard them on the broadcast, I was like, this is exactly who I want to have. To me, it seemed as if it was a combination of Tony Schiavone and Mike Tenay if they were in the one booth. Like, I just enjoyed the just Kevin Kelly is so nostalgic. I remember him in early WWF, and then I remember him more vividly in Ring of Honor recently, and of course he does New Japan as well. Nigel's great. He's been in the ring for how long? Rumors are he might come back for a match. Look out, Wembley. But yeah, I really think it's a great combination. I'm looking forward to hearing more of them on Collision going forward on Saturdays. Love the time slot. The ratings were pretty good, over 800,000 viewers. If they can keep Dynamite and Collision at 800,000 plus each week and kind of keep it sustained, I think that's really solid to have two shows at that level. Rampage is not getting anywhere more than 400,000 to 500,000 at best a week. Again, the preempted times, the random times. It's in the morning, it's at night, it's after this, it's before that. No consistency, and it's a really tough thing to keep the ratings solid whenever it's like that. So I'm hoping that Collision gets a little bit of a better treatment. Let's go into Dynamite, though, because Dynamite followed, and man, AR Fox, Action Andretti, Darius Martin, man, all I needed was Dante Martin. We didn't get him. I do believe he's still injured. They had a fun match, trios match, but they lost to the Suzuki Gods. We had the concession stand brawl between Mark Briscoe and Jeff Jarrett, which I'm an old wrestling fan, but even the concession stand brawl predates me. It happened, I believe, 44 years ago this week. But I am partial to the first concession stand brawl that happened in WCW, 1995's Uncensored pay-per-view, which I do believe happened in Mississippi. I'm going to do a little bit of a... Let's see. Where did this take place? Yep, Tupelo, Mississippi. That makes sense. That's the first Uncensored event, and they did a big brawl throughout the crowd. It was a Falls Count Anywhere match, and it was the semi-main. It was right before Hogan and Vader in a strap match. And that was my first real exposure to a concession stand brawl. Of course, as you get older, you kind of understand what the history was and what they did all throughout the years prior to the WCW one, of course. And I will tackle a little bit more WCW here in a little bit as we get through this episode of Dynamite. But we had that. The Guns defeated the Hardys, which is wild seeing the Guns going against the Hardys, considering the Hardys lost to the Smoking Guns back in the early 90s. The concession stand brawl was fantastic, and Mark Briscoe got the win. A lot of fun little... Papa Briscoe came in, Karen Jarrett interfered, Sanjay Dutt interfered, Satnam Singh delivered a choke slam. A lot of fun stuff there. Like I said, the trios match was really good action. Adam Cole cut a promo. MJF interfered in that promo. And so now we get Tanahashi MJF at Forbidden Door, which is going to be damn good. However, there is a AEW tag team title eliminator tournament that's going to determine the number one contenders. and it looks as if MJF, by way of random draw, MJF and Adam Cole are the tag team partners in that Eliminator tournament. And if you know me at all I was thinking about was Battlebowl, which is random drawing of random guys, good and bad. I mean, the WCW would used to have 2 cameras set up, and they would do a split screen. They'd have the baby faces on one side and the heels on the other side, and people would get randomly picked to be tag team partners, and they go and do tag matches throughout the night. The winners of those matches, that whole team, 2 guys, it would be either 8 or a 10 or a 20 person battle royal. The last guy standing would then become Battlebowl champion. I love that concept. Of course, it could have been done a little better, and pretty much is a panned concept throughout the history of pro wrestling and the pantheon of it all. But as a WCW super fan, I love the concept. I love the Super Bowl type part of it that Dusty Rhodes wanted it to be like. They have the Super Bowl. Here's Battle Bowl. I enjoyed the concept for what it was, and they said, it's random drawing, but this is a way where you could get obvious, great team interaction between 2 guys that hated each other or tag team partners against each other. You could work it and make it, however you wanted to mold it and make it kind of look more legitimate. And I think it's what they're doing, as MJF and Adam Cole now are going to be tag team partners. So that'll be fun. They also both interrupted saying, "Shut up, Shivani," which I really enjoyed as well. We also now get the Elite in a pre-tape promo, because they were not in the building this past Wednesday, although CM Punk was to interfere. And before we get to the Elite part, CM Punk also states, as he is on the mic, he says, "I'm a Collision guy. I shouldn't even be here," in Dynamite. That makes it seem like it's 2 separate brands. I don't know what the hell they're doing with that, but I enjoy that he kind of made it known. I like that they're putting matches for Collision, but it just seems different than Rampage. At least this first week of, setting up stuff on Collision, it doesn't seem so lame. I don't know what the word is, but I enjoy the Collision aspect of a new 2-hour show, taken more seriously, what have you. But the Elite did announce they get Eddie Kingston as their 4th partner, because it's Hangman and the Young Bucks, and they get Eddie Kingston. And then Eddie Kingston introduced Ishii, who's, again, legend in pro wrestling. He's up there in age, though, but he was one of the best never openweight champions that I had seen. I remember seeing him, it had to have been a Wrestle Kingdom match. It might have been against Naito? I don't recall, but it was one of the Wrestle Kingdoms. My God, it was a brutal match. And I remember watching it, being like, you know what? He's one of these tough guys that are still left in the business. And I didn't really know much about him, so to see him still kind of kicking it now, and he's a part of their 5-person team, which we'll get to for Forbidden Door Sunday. Zack Sabre Jr. and Danny Garcia defeated Shibata and Orange Cassidy, and of course it seems as if we're gonna see a fatal 4-way for that international title at the pay-per-view. So that was an interesting piece to get to. Now we get a fatal 4-way for that title. Chris Statlander retains, and then Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley had a one-on-one type of interaction where they're friends, but they're on opposite sides on Sunday, and they were kind of going at each other. And then we did see Okada making the save for Ishii, coming face-to-face with Bryan Danielson. And, of course, he hit Wheeler Yuta with the Rainmaker. God, the coins hitting the ground sound effect for Okada, I love. I'm so glad he's here for this show. I'm so geeked for this match, and damn it, let's get into it. We'll close out the show, close out the juice box here. 2 or 3 quick little notes though. It seems as if NXT is bringing back Raw Underground. I don't know what capacity, but I'm thoroughly interested in that. And speaking of, Gable Steveson showed up on NXT. God, Seth Rollins was there. Gable Steveson showed up. Baron Corbin was there. Gable Stevenson's going to train somebody for Raw Underground. So that'll be very interesting to see. And now we're going to get to Forbidden Door. And I do believe that I think Bryan Danielson and Okada is going to go on last. It should absolutely go last, but, AEW might do not the wrong thing, but I could see them choosing to do the Kenny Omega Will Ospreay match, depending on what they have after the match in regards to a angle. Because CM Punk's going to be on this show too. You got to remember, CM Punk was at Collision. The Elite were not. The Elite were not at Dynamite, but CM Punk was. And now we get all of them going to be in the same building in Toronto. 2 high-profile matches. What's going to happen? I have no idea. I don't know if CM Punk's going to get involved at all with the Elite, because if that happens, then it's immediately, to the races, looking for some sort of program between them. So we'll see. But let's get to this card. I'll do some predictions now. I believe there are 10 matches on the card outside of a pre-show match. Now, the pre-show match is Billy Starks versus Athena in the Women's Owen Hart Cup Tournament first round. I'm going to go with Athena there. I think she picks up the win. Let's dive into the actual card, where it was just recently announced that Filthy Tom Lawler, who former MMA guy, podcast host, wrestled in MLW, New Japan he wrestles in. He was a UFC guy for a while. He is going to wrestle Adam Cole. I believe MJF kind of said so, and it happened. It was literally not announced on TV until after the fact, and we're getting Tom Lawler and Adam Cole. So I have no expectations for this match, but I'm going to assume Adam Cole wins. Just straight up. Then we get the singles match for the AEW Women's World Title. Willow Nightingale takes on Toni Storm. Now, Willow Nightingale is the current strong women's champion for New Japan. So this is it's champion versus champion, but only Toni Storm's title is on the line. I think the Outcasts get involved, and Willow will take the pin, potentially. Toni Storm gets the victory. We get Orange Cassidy, Daniel Garcia, Katsuyori Shibata, and Zack Sabre Jr. in a 4-way for the AEW International title. The star power, the in-ring wrestling for this match in particular. I know we've got probably 2 of the greatest matches AEW might ever have on pay-per-view at the end of this thing, but this fatal 4-way, I think, could steal the show early. This is going to be one of those shows where damn near every match is quality. This is your wrestling fans' pay-per-view. This is, if you loved Dean Malenko and Rey Mysterio and Juventud Guerrera and Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and Perry Saturn, and you love that Ultimo Dragon, you love that cruiserweight, but like kind of cruiserweight type action in WCW. If you love the X Division in TNA, if you're a big fan of New Japan, if you're a fan of PWG, this whole show is really for you. I don't know if someone's going to take Orange Cassidy's title here, but if there was someone to take it, I would presume Daniel Garcia, unless Shibata or Sabre Jr. planned on staying in the States as champion. So I could be wrong, but I will take Orange Cassidy retaining. Kojima versus Punk. I see an interesting matchup here. I don't see why CM Punk shouldn't win this match and advance to potentially face Samoa Joe, which would be, as Joe Starkey would say, incrinculant. We have first a 6-man tag with the Suzuki Gods, Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara, and Minoru Suzuki versus Sting, Darby Allin, and TBA. This is, I believe, the first interaction between Chris Jericho and Sting in ring maybe ever. They had an interaction in the ring a couple of weeks ago, or was it last week? Again, because I didn't do the show proper, I'm a little thrown off with the timeline, but now we're kind of put back in as we get a pay-per-view this Sunday. But we get a 6-person tag. Sting and Jericho will be in the ring together for sure, at least for the first time, which I am thrilled to see. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think AEW is the best company in regards to taking care of their legends and utilizing their legends to the fullest extent. And I see no reason to believe that this match won't be exciting. I will say, I don't know who's the third man for this match for Sting and Darby. His partner will be, dare I say, Goldberg? I'll just leave it at that. I don't know. I have a weird feeling about that third partner. So, if it's Goldberg, then they win. Darby, Sting, and Goldberg win. But, other than that, I'm going to take the Suzuki Gods. So, it's kind of up in the air. Let's get to the 10-man tag. The Elite, Hangman Adam Page, Matt, Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, Eddie Kingston, and Tomohiro Ishii versus the BCC, the Blackpool Combat Club, with Konosuke Takeshita, Shota Umino, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, and Jon Moxley. 10-man tag should be fun. Probably more intriguing to me than the Anarchy in the Arena match, purely because it's not just chaos. There'll be more of a tag-based interaction here, but I think that they'll kill it. I think we'll get great interactions between Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. I'm looking forward to seeing Ishii and Claudio. I'm looking forward to seeing Takeshita and Ishii. So a lot of fun interactions I foresee in this match. Give me the Blackpool Combat Club. Give me the Blackpool Combat Club. But if the Elite win, give me another match between BCC and another 5-person team, but in Blood and Guts, because I think that is on the horizon for someone in AEW. It's going to happen sooner than later, I personally think. But I think the BCC have to be in Blood and Guts, personally. And then we have four more matches on this show. Sonata, who... Quick little story. TNA used to run a bunch of random house shows throughout the early 2010s, and a show that happened very close to where I lived for 3 straight years. TNA would hold this event called Base Brawl, which took place in Washington, PA, at a lower than minor league baseball team affiliate. Not even an affiliate of the Pirates. It's not even single A, double A, or triple A. It's just professional baseball. Like, these guys get paid to play, and it's just it. Like, local guys play, but they have a nice little stadium there. And they did a three years in a row. They did house shows where the ring was kind of at in the field, and everybody sat around. I don't know. It was an interesting atmosphere, to say the least. One year had rain, and I think Ken Anderson did a bump because it was slippery. I remember certain things like that. I remember Kurt Angle doing meet and greets in the ring, so I got to finally stand in a wrestling ring for the first time, which was badass. But one of the random lower moments, although it's a rags to riches story if you ask me, my friend Matt, who I believe asked a question on Ask Juice a couple of weeks back, him and I went, and we were sitting front row, and none other than Sonata, who was wrestling in TNA at the time, came down for his match, gave some fans high fives, came across the front row, put his hand out to give high fives to everybody else, and nobody stood up. And I felt terrible. Matt felt terrible. We both felt awkward. I've seen a clip on NXT recently where Dana Brooke got the same treatment. I feel for any wrestler that has to go through that. However, 10 years later, and Sonata is the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. So, damn, that's insane. He will be taking on Jungle Boy Jack Perry, defending the title. I see Jack Perry turning heel potentially on Hook after this match ends. I don't see Jack Perry winning. I see a good match, but I see Jack Perry turning heel somehow on Hook by the end of this show. Then, AEW World Title on the line. I can't believe this is the third of the best matches, I think, singles matches. MJF defense against Hiroshi Tanahashi, the Cena of New Japan. Man, Tanahashi last year at Forbidden Door was in a barn burner with Jon Moxley for the interim AEW World Title, and now we get to see him go against MJF, who is arguably one of the best in ring in AEW. He, of course, is the best on the mic, but MJF can really work a great match. He had arguably the greatest Iron Man match in the history of wrestling. He was involved in potentially one of the greatest dog collar matches in the history of wrestling, although Starrcade 83 would like to beg to differ. If I don't have that correct, I do apologize, but I do believe it was, yes, Greg Valentine and Roddy Piper in the dog collar match. I was correct. So MJF is no slouch when it comes to in-ring work, but him and Tanahashi, I think, should tear the house down as well. I don't see any reason that MJF shouldn't win this match either. Will he even show up, though? That's the question. He's been kind of teasing, like, I don't even want to be at this show. Do I have to wrestle this show? Do I have to wrestle weekly? Are you kidding me? Seems like he's going to wrestle. Seems like it's going to be a great match. Cannot wait. Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, singles match, IWGP United States Heavyweight Title. This is going to be probably... These last two matches, I've been trying to think, right, on how to describe, like, what I'm thinking, like, how I feel like these matches are going to go, or how, who's going to win, who's going to do this, what kind of match is going to happen, and, I just can't fathom that these two matches are going to be anything than the greatest matches we might have ever seen under an AEW banner. This first match, which is going to be a rematch from their January 4th of this year, Wrestle Kingdom 17 match, where Dave Meltzer gave this match 6.5 stars. Or 5.5. I don't know. 6.5, 5.5. The fact that they get this match, we get this match in Toronto. I know it's not the Tokyo Dome. I know it's not the same. But we get this match now 6 months later where Ospreay is challenging. I do believe we are going to see a new United States Heavyweight Champion, and Will Ospreay will be the man to do that. I'm at a point where I have no words for what this match is going to be. You guys, if you've listened to this show, if you've watched wrestling at all in the last couple of years, you know how good both of these guys are. And I think we are just days away from another just show-stopping match. Give me Will Ospreay to get back his title. And then main event, Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada. This is going to be, I don't know. It's so bizarre that these matches are even happening on this show. I have no other words other than to say I have no reason to believe that this is not going to be like the greatest wrestling match in AEW history. Nothing has been given to me. Nothing that I've seen would give me any other reason to believe that, So I fully expect both the Omega Ospreay and Okada and Danielson to be top level wrestling matches. I do think Okada should win this match, and I think he will. I think this is a dream match that we were so close to not getting due to Bryan's health and concussion issues and retirement back in early 2016, or was it little in 2015? I'm not sure when that actually happened. But it was 2 years, We almost didn't have a match like this. The fact that we have had 5 straight years now of Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, whatever you want to call him, being a part of wrestling in such an important way. And now we are on the cusp of, again, potentially one of the greatest matches you will probably ever see. I just have no real words to say. I'm more looking forward to being able to discuss this match and a lot of these matches next week. It's just, on paper, they're 5 stars. They're unbelievable. I don't know how much else to say. There's not going to be any like extra BS happening in these 2 matches that are going to affect them. I think they're as straight up wrestling as you're going to get, and I see no reason to believe that they're not going to be some of the greatest matches we've ever seen in AEW, let alone anywhere else. So I'm thrilled. This is a wrestling fans pay-per-view, right? If you watched Starrcade 96 because you wanted to see Dean Malenko, if you bought Starrcade 95 because you wanted to see New Japan versus WCW, and you got to see Liger and Benoit and Otani and Guerrero, this is you have finally lasted so long on this earth if you watch that show to where you're going to see an equivalent of that, but times 1,000. Something you probably have never seen before and something you might not ever see again. So I'm thrilled to watch this show this weekend. I have no reason to believe it's going to be anything other than fantastic, and I can't wait to discuss this next week. Once again, we'll probably do Money in the Bank predictions. Now, if Josh Eisenberg is available, he will be on board for that prediction show. If not, I will do the show solo again, but I will get to cover Forbidden Door, obviously, either way, and then I'll do the Money in the Bank predictions on my own. But either way, looking forward to it. Looking forward to next week's Juice Box, either way. Looking forward to Payback near Labor Day, Pittsburgh. Going to be fantastic. The tickets go on sale very soon. So be on the lookout for that. As always, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. You can follow the show, juicysteen.podbean.com, iTunes. Rate and review this 5 stars. That'd be fantastic. Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. Talk to me about wrestling. T-shirts, memorabilia, Seinfeld, whatever you want. I'm Juice Springsteen. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's edition of the Juice Box. And enjoy Forbidden Door this weekend, because we don't really get these types of shows much, but I think we'll get one of these shows each year, and they're going to be better and better. Okada, Danielson, Ospreay, Omega. I'm Juice Springsteen, and I'll talk to you guys next week on another edition of The Juice Box. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.